Can a game that came out 20 years ago actually be better than a brand new 3A release? That's not an easy question to answer, but in this video, I'm going to talk about older games that hold their own against anything releasing today. Most of them were ahead of their time, and that's exactly why they're still worth playing. By the time this video is over, you're going to want to go find them. If you're ready, let's get into it. Dante's Inferno. What would it feel like to walk through hell itself? This game shows you, and it doesn't hold back. Taking Dante's divine comedy and turning it into an action game sounds impossible on paper, but Visceral Games pulled it off, and the result is so wild, so brutal, so relentlessly creative that once you sit down and start playing, you don't want to stop. You descend through all 9 circles of hell, from lust to greed, from violence to treachery. Each circle has its own visual identity, its own enemy type, its own particular nightmare. The combat system draws heavily from God of War. You fight with a scythe and Beatrice's holy cross. You can choose to redeem the souls of your enemies or condemn them. That choice shapes how your character develops throughout the game. To this day, people are still asking, why was there never a sequel? Play it, and you'll be asking the same question. A Renaissance Italy assassin, and who could have predicted this concept would work so perfectly? The original Assassin's Creed fell into repetition. The second one changed everything. Ezio Auditore is one of the best written characters in gaming history. Young, sharp, passionate, and burning for revenge after his family's betrayal. You're doing parkour through the canals of Venice, leaping across the rooftops of Florence, having tea with Leonardo da Vinci. The assassination mechanics deepen significantly. The hidden blade feels far more satisfying to use, and for the first time, the open world genuinely invites you to explore it. Every city has its own personality, but what stays with you most is Ezio himself. To understand why the rest of the series kept coming back to him, all you have to do is play this game. Prince of Persia, The Forgotten Sand. Rewinding time as a game mechanic still feels as satisfying as ever, and this game is one of the best examples of it done right. The Forgotten Sands is a return to the sands of time lineage. The prince arrives at his brother's fortress, only to accidentally unleash an ancient force, an army made of sand. To fight it, he must manipulate time and the environment itself. The platforming is the most fluid the series has ever been. Press a button and time rolls back. You made a mistake, you undo it, you try again. That loop never feels frustrating, it feels addictive. As you unlock elemental powers, water turns into a solid wall. Wind carries you across gaps. For anyone who loves Sands of Time, this is a satisfying chapter in a story that deserved a proper ending. Would you kindly? 2 words. One of the most famous sentences in gaming history. And to understand why, you have to play this game. Rapture is a utopia built at the bottom of the ocean. A place where human will and science had no limit. But something went very wrong, and you're descending into this collapsed paradise alone. It plays from a first-person perspective, but don't mistake it for a standard FPS. You gain genetic powers through a substance called Atom, electricity, fire, swarms of insects. You combine those powers with your weapons to create solutions. The game never spells out for you. The atmosphere is suffocating, the storytelling is layered, and when the big revelation hits, roughly halfway through, it genuinely stops you in your track. This is what it looks like when a game uses its medium to tell a story no other medium could tell. Metro 2033 Redux. Imagine the survivors of nuclear war living in the tunnels beneath Moscow, fighting to stay alive day by day. This game makes you feel every moment of that. Metro 2033 Redux is the definitive version of one of the most atmospheric post-apocalyptic games ever made. Adapted from Dmitry Glukhovsky's novel, you play as Artyom, a young man venturing out from his home station into the dark tunnel, where every bullet counts, every air filter matters, and stepping outside without a gas mask means death. Atmosphere is the heart of this game. The suffocating blackness of the metro tunnel, the radioactive silence of the surface, the desperate routines of people just trying to survive in their underground stations. Together they build a world that breathes. You can move quietly or fight your way through. Each approach gives you a completely different experience. And with the Redux improvements, the game still feels fresh today. If you had electrical superpowers, what would you do with them? Save the city or burn it down? Infamous keeps asking you that question. Cole McGrath acquires his powers during a mysterious explosion while delivering a package. Empire City is under quarantine. Chaos has taken hold, and you're left trying to figure out both what happened and what kind of person you want to be. The morality system has real consequences. Good choices unlock different powers. Evil choices unlock others. And those decisions don't just affect your ability. They change how the people around you see you. Surfing from rooftop to rooftop on electrical lines, blasting enemies with lightning, grinding rails, the movement still feels good. And the ending drives straight into the next game in a way that makes it very hard to stop. Arkham Asylum. Superhero games used to be fine. Then Arkham Asylum came out and set a new standard from scratch. When Rocksteady took on Batman, no one expected it to be this good. You're spending a single night inside Arkham Asylum, Joker has taken over the facility, and you're trapped inside. Tight spaces, dim corridors, danger around every corner, and you are Batman. The free-flow combat system was born with this game. You strike enemies in rhythm, counterattacks, and each hit opens the next. Gliding down from a grapple point above, hanging from gargoyles and waiting for the right moment. These aren't just mechanics, they're feeling. The rest of the Arkham series went bigger, but none of them ever matched the claustrophobic tension of this first game. Bulletstorm. Killing the enemy isn't enough. You have to do it creatively. Bulletstorm introduced an absurdly entertaining idea to the FPS genre, the skill shot system. The more inventive the kill, the more points you earn. You grab an enemy with your energy leash, suspend them in midair, then blow them apart with an explosive round. Or you hurl them into a cactus, or you kick them off a cliff. The story is insane. The characters are over the top. The dialogue is unfiltered and genuinely funny. This game doesn't take itself seriously for a single second, and that's exactly where its power comes from. Sit down for just a bit on a free afternoon and you won't get up, because the next creative kill is always more satisfying than the last. A writer wakes up, his wife is missing, and a story he wrote but can't remember writing is starting to come true. Alan Wake came out in 2010 and it still hasn't been fully understood. With this game, Remedy created one of the rare works in gaming that achieves genuine psychological tension. The isolated forests of Bright Falls, the manuscript pages scattered across the world, enemies that feed on darkness, together they build an atmosphere unlike anything else. The gameplay is mechanically simple. Weaken enemies with light, then shoot them, but that simplicity serves a purpose. The real terror comes from the darkness, not from the enemies themselves. When Alan Wake 2 came out, people went back to this one, and that's when they realized what they'd been sitting in front of all along. This game is hard to describe, but once you've played it, no other action game gives you quite the same feeling. Hideki Kamiya's first major work at Platinum Games. Bayonetta is a witch who fights with firearms, magic, her hat, a suit made from her own hair, and 4 guns firing simultaneously. The combat system is deep enough that you could spend hours just learning the combos, but none of it feels forced. The game walks you through it one step at a time. The witch time mechanic. Dodge at exactly the right moment and the world slows down while you go to work. It's not a mechanic. Dodge at exactly the right moment and the world slows down while you go to work. It's not a mechanic. It's a moment of pure satisfaction. The stage design is extravagant. The character writing is full of confidence. The pace never drops. And the final battle, no spoilers, is one of the most epic finales in gaming history. Max Payne 3. Max Payne isn't young anymore. He's tired, he's drinking too much, and he's running from himself. That's how he ended up in Sao Paulo. Rockstar's entry into the series took Max somewhere completely different, out of New York's dark streets and into the chaos of Brazil. And that shift gave the character real depth. Max isn't a hero anymore. He's just someone trying to survive, dragging his own mistakes behind him everywhere he goes. Bullet time is still here, and it still feels incredible. Diving through the air and firing while enemy bullets hang in slow motion. That feeling hasn't aged a single day. The story is told like a film. Every cutscene passes through Max's voice, and that voice stays with you from beginning to end. The Saboteur, Paris, 1940. Nazi occupation. And you're an Irish racing driver who became a resistance fighter. The Saboteur never got the attention it deserved when it launched. But everyone who played it knows. The atmosphere in this game is unmatched. Areas under Nazi control are rendered in black and white. The zones you liberate burst into color. And that visual metaphor is so powerful that when you free a neighborhood and watch the color come back, something genuinely tightens in your chest. Sabotage. Open world exploration, climbing, and hand-to-hand combat all come together. And this was the last game Pandemic Studios ever made before closing down. For anyone hearing about this for the first time, yes, it really is that good. And yes, I'm still surprised by how few people talk about it. Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. At what exact moment does a game surpass cinema? It's the train sequence in Uncharted 2. This is the peak of Nathan Drake's adventure. From Tibet to Borneo, from Istanbul to a full-on blizzard, every chapter delivers a new cinematic moment. And those moments don't interrupt the gameplay, they grow out of it. The story is more complex this time around. Alliances, betrayals, and questions about Drake's past. The dynamic between Chloe and Elena pulls at you throughout, and every boss encounter comes wrapped in unforgettable set-piece design. With this game, Naughty Dog made the argument for PlayStation's best studio, and nobody really pushed back. God of War 3 was the PS3's greatest visual spectacle, but more importantly, it was the emotional high point of the entire series. Kratos' revenge reaches its absolute peak here. The final confrontation with Zeus has been talked about for over a decade. The combat system is the most varied the series had offered. The Blades of Chaos, the Nemesis Whip, the Claws of Hades. Each weapon carries its own philosophy of play, fighting on the backs of titans, striking while airborne, surviving in massive arenas. But the most powerful thing this game does is close the story. Everything ends here, and that ending leaves you both satisfied and somehow a little hollow, like something real just finished. Star Wars Battlefront 2. Yes, it came out in 2005, but leaving it off this list wasn't an option. Star Wars Battlefront 2 is still the best version of galactic warfare ever put into a game. You fight across two different eras, from the Clone Wars to the Galactic Civil War. You can play as Jedi, you can take part in space battle, and the campaign mode told through the eyes of the 501 First Legion tells one of the strongest stories any Star Wars game has ever delivered. It's available today on Steam and console. With mods, you can add new maps and characters. Playing this game feels like writing a letter to your childhood, but somehow it still feels new. Vanquish. No third-person shooter moves this fast. Not one. Born from the collaboration between Platinum Games and Shinji Mikami, Vanquish pushed sci-fi TPS into territory it had never explored. You play as Sam Gideon, a DARPA operative in a rocket-powered suit who moves faster than anything on the battlefield, sliding along the ground while firing a heavy weapon, dropping into bullet time to land a precise shot. This movement language exists nowhere else. The difficulty is high, the tempo never dropped, the boss fights are epic, and the whole game is only 4 or 5 hours, but those hours are more intense than 20 hours of most other games. The gold standard for short but perfect. Once you start, you're not putting it down until it's done. Kingdoms of Amalur: Reckoning. This game nearly vanished from history because of a bankruptcy, but the people who played it are still saying it was worth it just for the combat system. It was the only game 38 Studios ever made, and tragically, the last. But the legacy it left behind is real. The world of Amalur is detailed, the lore is deep, and most importantly, the combat system. It's a blend of hack and slash, RPG choice making, and class mixing. You can wield a sword, a bow, and magic at the same time. The variety of character builds is genuinely staggering. You can go full warrior, magic archer, or anything in between, and discovering those combinations keeps you busy for hours by itself. The world is large, the story holds up, but what really keeps you there is finding a combo that clicks, and then spending the rest of the game perfecting it. Ninja Gaiden 2. This game is going to kill you, repeatedly, and you're going to keep coming back. Ninja Gaiden 2 sits at a level of combat depth that very few action games have ever reached. You play as Ryu Hayabusa, the greatest ninja in history, and that's not arrogance, that's just the standard the game holds you to. Every enemy tests you. Every boss fight demands a different approach. The dismemberment system is real. You cut off an enemy's arm, and that enemy keeps attacking you with the arm that's left. It's simultaneously horrifying and incredibly satisfying. The difficulty is a point of debate. Some find it genuinely too hard, but when you master it, there's a feeling here that no other action game can give you. Sleeping Dogs. For anyone who loves Hong Kong crime cinema, this game feels like it was built specifically for you. Sleeping Dogs tells the story of an undercover cop infiltrating a triad organization. Wei Shen has to manage both sides, the police and the criminal, and that double identity gives weight to every decision you make. Who are you protecting? What do you actually value? The streets of Hong Kong are alive and full of atmosphere. The combat system carries the influence of the Arkham series, but feels rougher, more street level, slamming someone's head into a car hood, grabbing nearby objects as improvised weapons. This combat has its own identity. If you're looking for an open world that feels genuinely different from GTA, Sleeping Dogs is exactly what you're after. And when it ends, you'll want Wei Shen's story to keep going. Humanity has started augmenting itself with machines, and that technology is both liberating and enslaving at the same time. Yo! Human Revolution is one of the best examples of the immersive sim genre in the modern era. You play as Adam Jensen, a security operative who's been outfitted with bionic augmentations, and how you complete every objective is entirely your decision. Stealth, force, talking your way through, every approach opens different paths and produces different outcomes. That freedom makes the game feel different each time you play it. A world where corporations have turned the human body into a commodity, where identity and freedom are constantly in question. It feels more relevant today than you might expect, and that relevance is one of the game's sharpest edges.